When power, pride, and betrayal collide, love becomes a battlefield. Sara and William are about to prove that no wealth can buy loyalty, and no heart can escape its own fire. William, you think I'll let you ruin everything I built? Think again, Sara. You're nothing but a pawn in your own game. Sara, a pawn? No, William. I'm the storm you never saw coming, and I'll take everything, even your pride, if it means standing tall. This isn't just a fight. It's a war of hearts, secrets, and lies that will leave a city shaking. Don't blink. Like, subscribe, and watch every twist unfold. The summer sun stretched lazily across the horizon, spilling golden light over a town that had long forgotten what dreams looked like. In that place, where cracked pavements carried the weight of forgotten stories and laughter had grown rare, lived Sara. She was 18, her face still brushed with the innocence of youth, yet her eyes carried something older, something sharper. Poverty teaches its own lessons, and Sara had learned them all. Her world was small. A house patched with borrowed bricks, a mother whose hands were worn thin from endless labor, and a father whose silence often weighed heavier than his words. Yet, inside Sara, there burned a fire, restless, searching, unwilling to bend to the limits of her fate. The morning of the proposal was like any other. She swept the dusty floor, hummed under her breath, braided her younger sister's hair. But her mother's eyes lingered on her longer than usual, filled with both pride and sorrow, as though she already knew the storm that was about to break. The knock on the door came like thunder. When Sara opened it, the world shifted. He stood there, William, 30 years old, dressed in a suit that spoke of wealth she had only seen in glossy magazines someone else had thrown away. His posture was effortless, shoulders squared like a man born to command, yet his eyes carried a stillness that unsettled her. They were pale, cold, like the surface of a frozen lake, beautiful, but dangerous to step upon. William's voice was deep, steady, the kind that demanded to be heard without needing to shout. I'm here to see your parents. Sara's brows knitted, suspicion already blooming. About what? About you. His answer was short, cutting through the air like a blade. Her stomach tightened. For a moment she could not speak. She turned, her bare feet dragging across the floor, leading him into the small room where her parents waited. That day, poverty sat at the table across from power. It was a meeting of worlds that rarely touched except in stories whispered with envy or anger. Her mother greeted William with nervous smiles, her father with a stiff nod. The silence stretched until William broke it with words that carried no hesitation. I wish to marry your daughter. The room froze. Sara's breath caught in her chest, her hands tightening into fists at her sides. She had expected many things in her life struggle, hunger, survival. But this was a twist she had not imagined. Her father cleared his throat, struggling to find words. You mean Sara? Yes. William's eyes shifted briefly to her. She is the one I've chosen. Sara's voice cracked the stillness, sharper than she intended. Chosen? Like I'm an item in your collection? William's gaze met hers fully for the first time, and something inside her stilled, not with peace, but with the intensity of being seen too clearly. You misunderstand. I don't collect. I decide. She laughed bitterly. And what if I decide otherwise? A flicker passed across his face, the smallest crack in his composure. Then you surprise me. Few people dare to oppose me. It was not a proposal in the way girls dreamed about. No flowers, no kneeling, no gentle promises. It was a transaction dressed in elegance, a storm hidden in polite words. But in that storm, Sara felt something she had never felt before, an equal challenge. Her mother whispered, Sara, this is a blessing, a chance to change everything. Sara's heart thudded painfully. She looked at William, at the cold certainty in his face, at the weight of a life she did not ask for pressing down on her. Tell me, William, she said softly, but her voice carried the strength of defiance. Do you think marriage is a cage you build with your wealth, or do you believe it's something more? He studied her, intrigued. For the first time, his lips curved into something resembling a smile. I believe marriage is power, and power can be shared or wasted. Her eyes narrowed. Then maybe you've come to the wrong house, because I'm not here to be conquered. William leaned forward, his presence filling the small room. Perhaps. Or perhaps you're the only one capable of standing in the same fire without burning. In that moment, Something ignited not love, not yet, but a dangerous curiosity. The poor girl who carried wisdom like a sword, and the rich man who lived in a kingdom of glass walls, both felt the air tighten between them. Her father, overwhelmed by the promise of wealth, agreed without hesitation. Her mother, torn between fear and hope, said nothing. But Sara walked out of that room with her head high, her heart pounding, and a vow burning in her chest. If she was to step into William's world, it would not be as a shadow. It would be as a storm. And William, watching her retreat, felt for the first time in years that something had slipped beyond his control. The following evening arrived dressed in quiet tension. The sky stretched out in a muted indigo, and a breeze swept through the narrow streets, carrying the scent of charcoal and the faraway laughter of children. Sara stood in front of a mirror that had a crack running through its center. She smoothed the fabric of the borrowed dress her mother had insisted she wear, soft cream, simple yet elegant. It clung to her shoulders in a way that made her look older, sharper. She didn't dress to impress. She dressed like someone going into battle careful, deliberate, knowing that every glance, every word would matter. In another part of town, William adjusted his cufflinks with the same precision he applied to contracts. His world was one of glass towers, marble floors, and conversations layered with strategy. He wasn't used to uncertainty, but tonight, something unsettled him. A thought, soft yet persistent. She had looked him in the eye yesterday, and did not flinch. The car arrived for her at sunset. It wasn't just a car. It was sleek, black, polished to the point where the world reflected in its surface. Her neighbors watched with a mixture of envy and disbelief as Sara climbed in. Children whispered, women leaned closer to their gates. She sat in the back seat, spine straight, hands folded, her heart pounding against her ribs. It wasn't fear, it was resolve. When the car pulled up to William's house, the contrast nearly stole her breath. Wide gates opened to reveal a driveway, lined with lanterns, leading up to a mansion that looked like it had been carved out of old power and modern ambition. Inside, chandeliers glowed softly, and a long dining table stretched across a room where silence carried its own weight. William was waiting. He wore a crisp white shirt, the sleeves rolled up just enough to look unplanned, though nothing about him ever was. When Sara entered, his eyes found her immediately, not scanning, not assessing. Fixing. "You're punctual," he said. "And you expected me to be late," she replied, lifting her chin. "I expected." Hesitation. Sara's lips curved slightly. "Then you don't know me at all." The table between them was set for two, but it felt like a chessboard. The servants withdrew, leaving the silence to settle like fine dust. William gestured to the seat opposite him. "Sit." "I'm not here to take orders," she replied. But she sat not out of submission, but because her place was hers to claim, not his to give. He poured wine into crystal glasses. She raised an eyebrow. "I don't drink." "You will," he said simply. "No," she answered, just as simply. Their eyes locked. Neither blinked. A quiet smile ghosted across his face. "Stubborn. Independent," she corrected. The food arrived plated perfection, dishes she didn't even know the names of, but she held the fork with the quiet grace of someone who refused to be embarrassed. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. William leaned back, studying her. "You're different from the others." "Others?" she echoed, setting down her fork. "You talk as if you've auditioned a line of girls for this role." "Marriage in my world is strategic," he said. "People offer daughters, make alliances. I chose you because you didn't play the game." Sara's voice hardened. "Maybe because I never asked to be a piece on your board." He tilted his head. "And yet, here you are." "Yes," she said, her voice low and sharp. "But don't confuse arrival with surrender." The words hung between them like a struck bell. He wasn't used to defiance served this elegantly. She wasn't used to someone who could match her confidence without raising his voice. William leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Tell me, Sara, what do you want?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "Freedom, dignity, a life that belongs to me. And if I say you can have all of that with me?" She smiled. Not a soft smile, but one edged with truth. "Then I'll say you're lying, because men like you don't give freedom. They trade it for obedience." He exhaled slowly, not in frustration but fascination. "You might be the first person who's ever told me that to my face." Then, you've been surrounded by the wrong people. Their dinner wasn't romantic, it was electric. A quiet storm wrapped in silk and steel. She challenged him at every turn, and instead of pushing back, he listened, really listened, as though every word she spoke was chiseling something open inside him. When dessert was brought, untouched by both, William finally said, "I don't need a bride who bows. I need someone who stands beside me." Sara looked at him for a long time. "Then you need to learn that standing beside someone doesn't mean owning them." The room fell silent. For a heartbeat, the air felt heavy, not with hostility, but with possibility. It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood. A poor girl who spoke with the mind of a queen. A rich man who had always ruled, now unsure whether he wanted to conquer or change. When the night ended and the car took her back home, Sara leaned against the window, staring at the passing streets. She wasn't falling for him, but something was beginning. A test of power, of hearts, of who would bend and who would remain unbroken. And William watched the car disappear, a strange feeling twisting inside his chest. For the first time in years, someone had made him curious. About more than himself. Sara had never felt a moment like this. The house, no. The mansion was every inch perfection. Gleaming marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, crystal chandeliers that sparkled like stars. But today, the luxury felt cold, almost suffocating. She sat at the breakfast table, watching William scroll on his laptop. Normally, he'd greet her with a soft kiss or a teasing smile. Today, he muttered a good morning without even looking up. Sara forced a small smile. "Everything okay, William?" He barely glanced up. "Yeah." And then he walked away, phone in hand, disappearing into the hallway. A pit formed in Sara's stomach. Something was off. Something hidden. Later, while unpacking a few things in their bedroom, she noticed a small, slightly ajar drawer in William's wardrobe. He usually locked it. Curiosity overtook caution. She pulled it open. Inside, she found a photo frame. Sara froze. It was William, standing next to another woman, smiling warmly. Between them stood a little girl, blonde hair, striking blue eyes, an uncanny reflection of William himself. Her heart stopped. A piece of paper behind the frame read, "Our family." 2021, the softest sound of a voice startled her. William was behind her, watching. "What are you doing?" he asked, calm yet wary. Sara's hands trembled, the photo almost slipping. "Who is this?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. William's shoulders slumped. "Sara, I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. I thought later I'd explain." "Later?" Sara's tone shifted into disbelief and rising anger. "Later? I'm your wife. I should have heard this from you first." He sighed, closing his eyes. "Her name is Lily. She's my daughter, from my first marriage." Sara took a step back, the floor feeling suddenly unstable beneath her. "You married me, knowing all this? Just to take care of your child?" The accusation burned from her lips. "No. Sara, it's not like that. I love you, I really do, but..." William's voice faltered. Sara cut him off sharply. "But what, William?" "That I'd be okay with this. That I'd just accept it?" William's gaze dropped. "I should have told you before, I know. I thought I could handle it. I misjudged everything." The room felt smaller, suffocating. Sara held the frame tighter, feeling the weight of betrayal, the weight of shattered trust. All the dreams she had of their new life, of being fully seen and loved now, felt like smoke slipping through her fingers. Later that night, Sara couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed, Lily's photo frame in her lap, staring into the glass reflection. William slept in the guest room, unaware of the storm raging in her heart. The next morning, Sara finally saw Lily in the living room, playing quietly with a nanny. The little girl's laughter was innocent, untouched by the tension between adults. But to Sara, it only complicated everything. She loved William, yes, but now she questioned everything. Am I just his replacement? Am I wife or caretaker here? Does he love me? Or just need me? William approached cautiously later that day. "Sara, please, let me explain. Just give me a chance." Sara lifted her head, tears welling but her voice steady, controlled. "William, Just one question. If I hadn't seen that drawer, that photo, would you ever have told me the truth? William couldn't meet her eyes. His silence spoke louder than any words could. For Sara, that silence said it all. The morning sunlight cut through the heavy curtains, illuminating the sprawling living room. Sara stood in the center, her eyes fixed on William, who lounged arrogantly on the velvet sofa, the picture of calm and control. But today, control would shift. Sara, what is it now? William asked, irritation curling his lips. He didn't even look up from his glass of whiskey. Sara took a slow step forward, her voice low but cutting. William, it's time. Everything, the business, the estates, the legacy, I want it in my name. William finally raised his gaze, eyebrows arching in disbelief. Excuse me? His tone was sharp, incredulous. You want what in your name? Sara's voice hardened, each word deliberate, almost regal. Everything. The family business, the estates, the wealth, every last thing. I married you. Yes, but I won't let your legacy remain untouched by my hands. It should bear my name, my decisions, my vision. A cold laugh escaped William. You think I'll just hand it all over? Do you hear yourself? You want my family, my name, my entire fortune, and you think I'm supposed to agree? Sara didn't flinch. Her eyes, sharp as daggers, met his. I don't think, William. I know. This is about respect, about fairness, about acknowledging that without me, without my strength, none of this would truly matter. He slammed the glass on the table, amber liquid spilling across the polished wood. Strength. You call greed strength? You want power, Sara? And you've cloaked it in ambition, but I see through it. I see you. All you are is selfish, ambitious, dangerous. And I won't know. I cannot let you take what is mine. Sara's heartbeat didn't falter. Her voice dropped, velvet and steel intertwined. Dangerous? Maybe. Selfish? Not at all. William, I've stood in the shadows, carried the weight of your world, and now I demand recognition. I want my name on everything because I've earned it, because I'm worth it. You called me loyal, clever, capable. Now show it. Or steep as cider. William's face twisted in anger, disbelief, and a hint of fear. He stood abruptly, his height looming over her. Step aside. I should step aside while you strip me of my family, my name, my empire? You are delusional, Sara. Sara took a deliberate step forward, unafraid. Delusional? No. Visionary. And I won't apologize for wanting the recognition I deserve. Every deal, every negotiation, every sleepless night you think they were yours alone. They weren't. They were mine too. You just didn't notice. Until now. William's fists clenched. His face darkened, veins standing out at his temples. Enough. You'll never control me, my name, my empire. Sara's eyes softened, almost pitying. But her words cut sharper than any blade. Control? William, I'm not trying to control. I'm claiming what's rightful. But if you refuse, then you leave me no choice. William laughed bitterly, a harsh, almost manic sound. Choice? You want me to surrender? You want me to kneel while you rise? He shook his head. I've loved you, I've tolerated you, but this greed, it's unforgivable. Sara's lips curved into a cold, victorious smile. Love has nothing to do with it. Respect does. Recognition does. And if you cannot see that, William, then perhaps we are finished. He stepped closer, voice rising, fury spilling out. You are nothing but a schemer, a greedy, manipulative, ambitious schemer. I trusted you, gave you my name, my home, my world, and this is how you repay me. Sara didn't back down. She stood tall, unyielding. Schemer? No. Survivor. Visionary. Woman. And now, you see me. Not the obedient wife you wanted, but the force you can no longer ignore. William's chest heaved. He shouted, every word a storm. Get out, before I regret ever. Sara's hand lifted slightly, steady and regal. Then I will leave, for now. But know this, William. A name, a legacy, a fortune once claimed, cannot be erased, and I will claim mine. She turned, each step deliberate, leaving a stunned, raging William in her wake. The house, once a symbol of his absolute control, now felt different. Sara had shaken the foundations, and she hadn't even begun to take what was hers. A courtroom smelled of polished wood, leather, and anticipation. Sara stood at the center, her posture straight, hands clasped around her papers. She was calm, too calm. Some whispered, but inside, her mind raced like a tempest. Today wasn't just about money or legacy. It was about respect, truth, and reclaiming herself from the man who had lied and used her. The judge's gavel struck, commanding silence. "Ms. Anderson," the judge began, "state your case." Sara inhaled, her voice steady, yet cutting. "Your Honor, I married William under the belief that this was a partnership, a union built on respect and honesty. But the truth is, William lied. He has a child, yes, but not with me. Not with me. And yet, he demanded loyalty, obedience, and my full trust. For what? To serve as a shadow in his life while he shields secrets, shields his past, shields himself." The courtroom murmured. William shifted in his seat, his composure cracking, a thin sheen of sweat on his temple. Her voice dropped lower, sharper. "And then, Your Honor, came the financial manipulations. He accused me of greed, of wanting his name, his fortune, while all along, it was his lies that forced my hand. He painted me as avaricious, but the reality is every claim I make is for the respect I was denied, for the recognition that was stolen the moment he brought the ex-wife's child into my life, and expected me to bow." The lawyer for William stood, adjusting his tie, eyes cold. "Objection, Ms. S. Anderson, this is irrelevant." Sara's eyes never left the judge. Irrelevant? Is it irrelevant that a man who lied under oath, who hid truths about his personal life, tries to humiliate and erase his wife? Or that he turned our marriage into a stage, with me as the naive performer, applauding his every move while he pocketed my dignity? The judge raised a hand, signaling silence, yet the tension thickened. William's jaw clenched. Sara could see it, the recognition that she was no longer pliable, no longer the obedient figure he had manipulated. She walked slowly toward the center, every step deliberate. "I ask this court not for vengeance. I ask for justice, for respect, for acknowledgement that a woman, any woman, cannot be used as a placeholder for a lie. That I am not greedy. That I am not the villain in this story. The villain is the man who believed his wealth and his lies could buy my silence and my obedience." William's face twisted. "You think this court will believe you over me? Over my reputation? Over my word?" Sara smiled, bitter, sharp. "I don't need the court to believe me over you. I need them to see the truth I bring, every email, every document, every witness. You may have your wealth, you may have your name, but you will not have my silence." The courtroom went still. Even the most seasoned attorneys were stunned by her poise, by the fire that burned in her eyes. She continued, softer now, almost mournful, yet resolute. "I once believed in love, in loyalty, in the sanctity of marriage. I trusted William because he promised transparency, honesty, partnership. But every promise was a thread in a web, and I, naive, stepped into it willingly. And now, I step out, and I claim the respect and recognition that was mine all along." The murmurs rose again. William's lawyer tried to intervene, but Sara's stare froze him mid-step. Every word she had spoken, every truth she had revealed, echoed through the courtroom. Sara paused, letting the weight settle. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to plead. The fire in her presence said everything. A woman who had been manipulated, lied to, and dismissed would no longer be silent. And today, the world, William included, would finally see it. The morning sun sliced through the tall windows of the courtroom, casting sharp lines across polished wood and anxious faces. Sara sat poised, her fingers tracing the edges of her folder, the papers within holding years of truth, deception, and betrayal. Today, she wasn't just fighting for fairness, she was fighting to reclaim herself from the man who had made her believe in love while weaving lies. "Judge, Ms. Anderson, please state your case." "Sara, my case, Your Honor, begins with a truth William tried to bury. William told me he was free, single, ready to build a life with me. I believed him, I trusted him, I loved him. But it turns out, that trust was a weapon, And his love was a mask. He is already married. He has a child from his previous marriage hidden from me. And yet he demanded my loyalty, my obedience, and my respect. For what? To serve as a placeholder in his life while he kept his secrets intact. A murmur ran through the courtroom. William shifted uncomfortably, his perfect facade cracking like thin ice under pressure. Sarah's words were calculated, precise, and searing in their honesty. William, defensive, voice sharp. You are exaggerating. That child is not your concern. Our marriage was never about deception. This is absurd. Sara, absurd. Absurd is believing the man you married is honest when every document, every call, every whisper says otherwise. You paraded me as your wife, while you hid the very truth that should have made me pause. You made me think my role was to be blind and obedient, while the reality was, I was invisible, dismissed, a pawn in your convenient story. Her eyes burned with a mixture of anger and grief. This was not just a courtroom, it was her stage, and she was no longer the timid, naive girl who had once dreamed of wealth, love, and security. She was fire walking on polished floors. Sara, I did not marry for money, Your Honor. I married with the hope of building a life, of partnership, of respect, yet every moment was undermined by lies. And when I questioned him about the child, about the truth, he dismissed me, called me greedy, called me manipulative, as though honesty was my crime. I stand here to reclaim my dignity, to show the world that deception cannot silence the betrayed. The courtroom felt smaller. Havier. Even William's lawyer faltered, unsure how to counter the precision of her words, the weight of her undeniable pain. William, you claim deception, yet you ask for my fortune. You are a liar and a schemer yourself. Sara, I do not claim your fortune. I claim the respect you denied me, the truth you hid, the dignity you tried to erase. Every claim I make is backed by evidence. Every assertion is documented. I am not greedy. I am not manipulative. I am a woman who has been wronged and refuses to be silenced. She walked slowly to the center of the room, letting her presence fill the space. Each word, each pause, was a calculated strike. William's confident mask had cracked entirely. The man who thought wealth and status could control everything now sat silent, exposed. Sara, I once believed in love, in honesty, in the sanctity of marriage. I trusted William. I gave him my loyalty, my heart, and my hope. He returned lies. He returned betrayal. I am no longer that woman who bends, who obeys blindly. Today I stand as a testament that truth will outlive deceit, that strength rises from betrayal, and that respect is not earned by deception. It is demanded by courage. The courtroom held its breath. Some whispered, some stared, some averted their eyes. But Sara's words hung like smoke, unignorable, undeniable, and powerful. She had no need to raise her voice. Her presence, her fire, was enough. Judge, order in the court. Ms. Anderson, we will consider your evidence. Your statement has been heard. Sara, this is not over, William. Not until the truth is not just heard, but felt. Not until respect is restored. Not until justice is mine. And with that, she sat, calm on the outside, storming within. Today, she had spoken truth to power, revealed betrayal, and refused to be diminished. William may have wealth, status, and cunning, but Sara had fire, intelligence, and undeniable courage. The gavel fell, but its sound did not mark an end. It marked the beginning of her reclamation. The courtroom was silent, save for the low hum of anticipation. Papers rustled, whispers echoed along the polished walls, and Sara's calm composure masked the storm that had been brewing inside her for months. Today, the gavel's final decision would fall, and though William thought victory was certain, life had a different plan. Judge, after reviewing all evidence and testimony, this court rules in favor of Mr. William Carter. The legal marriage stands. Custody arrangements, however, will be revisited in accordance with the child's best interests. Miss Anderson, you may collect your personal belongings from the estate. A hush fell over the room. Sara's lips curved into a serene smile, not of defeat, but of quiet calculation. She rose, her steps measured, deliberate. William's eyes glimmered with triumph, but he did not yet know that winning this case was not the end. It was merely a prelude to his undoing. Sara, thank you, Your Honor. That will be all for now. She did not cry. She did not beg. She did not even glance at William, who sat smugly, convinced the world had tilted in his favor. She walked out with nothing but a folder of papers, her dignity, and a mind racing with possibilities. Scene: Sarah's modest apartment evening. Sara entered her apartment. The scent of worn leather and old wood greeted her like an old friend. She placed her folder on the table, lit a candle, and stared at the blank page before her. That page, she realized, was more powerful than any gavel, more enduring than any court ruling. It would speak truths that the law could not touch. Sara, they think this is over. That a verdict can silence me. But words, they have power, and I know how to wield them. Days turned into weeks. She poured her soul into her writing, crafting every sentence with precision, emotion, and intelligence. Each word was a dagger to deceit, each paragraph a mirror reflecting betrayal and resilience. The book she wrote was not merely a memoir, it was a manifesto of courage, a testament to a woman who refused to be diminished. Sara, I will tell the world what it means to be betrayed, underestimated and underestimated again. I will write not for revenge, but for truth. And in that truth, there will be justice. The book, once published, spread like wildfire. Critics hailed it as a revelation, readers wept at her honesty, and cities buzzed with discussions about the audacity of her courage. It was not just a story, it was a movement. Sara's words ignited conversations in cafes, boardrooms, and social circles. William sat in his study, the leather chair creaking under his weight. A copy of Sara's book lay on the desk before him, its cover innocuous, yet its contents lethal. He flipped through the pages, and with each revelation, his smug composure crumbled. The world now saw him not as the charming, wealthy man but as the liar he truly was. William, how did she? This is impossible. The city that once whispered his name in admiration now murmured it in judgment. His influence waned. Invitations disappeared. Deals fell through. The empire he had built on charm and wealth trembled under the weight of Sara's truth. Finally, unable to bear the public humiliation, William vanished from the city, his cars, his trophies, even his estate left behind. The city watched in awe and quiet satisfaction as the man who thought he could control narratives disappeared, leaving Sara's story to dominate the conversation. Sara stood behind the podium, the audience a sea of eager faces. Every hand that reached for a signed copy, every tear shed in empathy, every smile of encouragement, reinforced a reality she had long known. Victory was not always measured by court rulings. It was measured by respect, by truth, and by the legacy one leaves. Sara, this book is not just my story. It is the story of anyone who has been underestimated, anyone whose voice has been ignored. Today, we reclaim our power not with fists, but with words. Not with anger, but with courage. And we rise. The applause thundered, echoing through the hall like a storm that had finally broken. Outside, William's absence was a whisper, a ghost of a past that could no longer define the present. Sara's fire, once quiet, now roared with a brilliance that no court, no lie, and no man could ever dim. And so she lived strong, unbroken, and unstoppable. The city had learned, in no uncertain terms, that a woman armed with truth, intellect, and courage could dismantle empires, rewrite narratives, and emerge victorious, even when the law had not yet aligned with justice. Sara, I do not need him. I do not need validation. I have my story, and in it, I am limitless. The gavel had fallen. The court had spoken, but the real verdict, the one that mattered, had already been delivered. Sara had risen, triumphant not because she had reclaimed herself, and in that reclamation, she had changed the world around her.